Let's talk a little bit about Xbox's upcoming schedule here. This comes from The Verge, who, as you can see here, has a daily newsletter, and they're like, hey, you want to keep reading? Give us money. So we're going to Pure Xbox for this one because they have a pretty brief summary of what's going on here. These are the Xbox release windows for a ton of games. Now, if you've been watching Xbox this year, you know that they have a lot on the way. It is the year of the Four Horsemen. So you've got your Halo, your Gears, your Forza, and they consider Fable now one of the Four Horsemen, which I thought was really interesting because I always loved Fable. It was one of my horsemen. But I didn't know Xbox thought of it that way. But after seeing the Fable reveal, it makes a lot more sense because that game's making some noise, some really good noise, which is awesome to see. That Xbox finally might have like a bona fide win on their hands without like any strings attached. But that game does obviously have to deliver. But that's just a piece of the pie. Remember, Xbox owns Bethesda. They own Activision. So on top of these 4 games, which is more than enough for a calendar year, you've also got like a Call of Duty. You've also got whatever Bethesda is getting up to here. And then we even saw at the recent Developer Direct, like here comes Double Fine shoving a game out. So when are these all dropping is a really important part of the conversation, because one thing that Craig Duncan, the head of Xbox Game Studios, talked about is all of these games need a release window. And that gets even more difficult when the holiday period is going to be gobbled up by GTA 6, which is coming out this November. And it seems like, based on what Take-Two's saying, they're doubling down. They said marketing plans are coming into fruition this summer. Get ready. Like, here it comes. They're going to start taking your pre-order money. So it feels like we can lock that in. And obviously, if you're Halo, which has an anniversary this year, right next to where GTA would be launching, you got to respond to that if you're Xbox. So we have the report from The Verge. Now we're on Pure Xbox here. And this is what they write. The Verge's Tom Warren has shed some more light on this today in a new report, pointing there's a big effort internally for Microsoft to release a new Forza, Fable, Gears, and Halo game in 2026. Warren says that Halo Combat Evolved is going to be aiming to launch in summer 2026 as things stand, while Gears of War E-Day is scheduled for some point in the second half of the year. Xbox keen to avoid being too close to GTA 6. The quote is, I understand Microsoft has a good idea of when both should launch, but is also keen to avoid being too close to GTA 6 on November 19th. So yeah, this is the date everyone's dancing around. I'm really curious when the dust settles, what the window of time will be where nothing else is happening except GTA 6. Like, will we actually have a point in a holiday calendar where it's literally just GTA 6 for like a 2-week stretch? No one else wants to be in that kind of that blast zone, basically. That said, though, Halo is the most interesting one here. Halo Campaign Evolved comes out, originally we were thinking end of this year because that's the anniversary of Xbox 25 years. It launches with Halo Combat Evolved. You're going to do that again on November 15th, right? Wrong. Halo Campaign Evolved is coming out. I hate the name Campaign Evolved, so I apologize if I trip up on that word. But that's coming out summer 2026. I'm a little iffy on this one, all right? This gets beyond any concerns people had about like sprinting, lore, new campaign missions, that sort of stuff. It's really because of my co-host, Lord Cognito. When I saw this game, right, I was thinking to myself, like, okay, in some ways this is uglier than the original, but that's kind of me being a little pretentious. But when he started to talk about performance concerns, frame rate was really bad. It didn't control well. There was like latency input delay. I when I started to hear those things, I'm like, oh boy. And again, this was a project that, as we've read before, Halo Studios has had issues with this, which the sky is blue, grass is green. Like, I'm not surprised by any of this, unfortunately, but it doesn't seem like a game that's really, from what we've heard with previews, ready for summer. It feels like a game that instead is being put there because it's the only window where it could breathe. And I hope I'm wrong. I want this game to be great. For those who don't know, Halo 1 is like my favorite. I love Halo 3. That's like right there next to it. But Halo 1, the amount of times I've replayed it, so many memories. You will hear me wax poetic about that game numerous times this year, and hopefully for good reason. What I want with this remake is, with these new prequel missions they're adding and the new bells and whistles they're adding, is for me to be like, and that's why that game is my GOAT. And they added to it. They made it better. That's what I'm hoping for. But when I hear that they're launching this soon, I already worry about the optimization, the frame rate, that sort of stuff. So we'll see there. Gears of War E-Day being in the second half of this year is also interesting because we now know that Fable's taking up an autumn slot. That can go anywhere from September to November. We now know Xbox is keen on avoiding GTA 6. Fable looked like it was in kind of rough shape already because of its frame rate. So would October be that game's month? Is Gears a December game? If it's in the second half of the year, is it a July game? Like, does it fall in September? I don't know. It could fall in any of these months. But what Xbox is going to have with all of these games coming out is if they're trying to take 1 month out of the year, they're going to shotgun blast one way or another. This is something I have talked about so much with them, is that they need to get better at giving their games time to breathe. Because last year we saw it. You had your Ninja Gaiden 4, your Outer Worlds 2. On top of that, you had Keeper get buried. And then there was the ROG Ally. This was all in like a 2 week span, something like that. It's way too much. So already their release schedule is like really interesting on a content level, but I just hope these games get time to breathe because a lot of them have potential. Like a Halo campaign remake has a lot of potential. Gears coming back in this way, bro, like Dom and Marcus again, that's huge. I hope they make that a big deal. And it makes me wonder if that's going to be the developer direct game for this year for the summer showcase. So that's just 2 games on their calendar. You could have a whole conversation about that, which we just did, but there's more here. They said beyond the big 4, it's believed that Double Fine's Kiln will be releasing April 2026, and new Starfield content will also arrive during that month. We first heard about planned improvements for Starfield back in December, and then earlier today it was suggested that a PS5 release could happen in April as well. Obviously, as I've mentioned before, I've seen the Starfield update early. I've not been told when it was coming or anything like that, so I'm just going to stir right around that one. Just get out of the way here because I don't want to say anything wrong or people think I'm like going to drop information on it. But we're seeing that new Starfield content is going to be on the way in a couple of months here, which this feels long overdue. I do think like before I even saw anything, I did think this would be here way sooner. The fact that Bethesda's taking a lot of time here is definitely going to build the expectations and hopefully they deliver for a lot of people here. As for Kiln from Double Fine, that finds itself in April. I think this is a nice little pocket for them right here, April 26th. You know, it's going to be it's a less busier month. Sorry. May is a little busier with big games, and then March is really busy. So this finds itself in a nice little pocket. I think that works. I have no real hype for Kiln personally, but I think it looks like a cute little game here. As a Fusion Frenzy fan, that was like the only thing I thought of when looking at it. Like, oh, I remember the days of like Xbox party games. But hopefully it kind of takes over and gets a lot of people interested. Now, the big one here. The main reason I wanted to talk about this. Finally, the other potential major release that Warren mentions for 2026 is Fallout 3 Remastered. But although he mentions it's in active development, he doesn't commit to a 2026 launch, mentioning that, quote, Bethesda is keen to ensure it's as well polished as the surprise release of Oblivion Remastered last year. Okay, take a breath here because that's a wild statement. They're keen to make sure it releases as polished as Oblivion Remastered. Okay. I have really mixed feelings on that game. Oblivion Remastered is like one of the best remasters I've played because of the way we know the obvious stuff. It overhauls the visuals. It overhauls the combat animations. To me, that's like, hell yeah. It's more than I could have dreamt of because it still has like the physics and the jank and the bugs. But then because of like UE5 and these new visual bells and whistles, it introduces new problems to the game. Not really in its content, like will this quest work, but new problems like this doesn't run well. This doesn't look right. This is stuttering constantly. This doesn't feel good to play. And I try not to get too wrapped up in that because ultimately it's the experience. I enjoy the journey. I enjoy the ride. And I can get over that in a lot of ways. My problem is that they dropped the support for Oblivion Remaster like that. They dropped the game and then went, see ya. And like, I know they technically had a patch, but I really didn't think after that June patch they dropped that would be it. That would be the polished Oblivion Remaster. They had so much more work to do. So I do look at this thing to myself, okay, what's happening here? If it's in active development and they want to keep it as polished for a surprise release, basically is what I think they're going to do. I imagine they dropped Oblivion so quickly because they needed to get to Fallout 3 because the demand for Fallout 3 is really high. If that Amazon countdown taught Bethesda anything, it's, my God, do people really, 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 really want Fallout remasters. And I think when Fallout 3 comes around and it gets remastered, oh my God, it's going to be inescapable. It's going to be one of the best-selling games of the year. And finally, I can watch Fallout 3 enjoy its own window without having to hear about fucking New Vegas for the millionth time. I'm sorry, but just, I don't know why no one lives in this world where like both games are really great. It's always one or the other. It's a big old dick measuring contest between these two here. But because they dropped Oblivion so fast, I imagine it's to accelerate Fallout 3. Another added incentive to push Fallout 3 out the door is the TV show. Not just because, TV show's running, but let's just say the Enclave is heavily involved. There's going to be a lot of people wondering who the Enclave are. And I think it's a plot element that is not explained super well in the TV show if you haven't played the games. So Fallout 3, funny enough, its main bad guy is the Enclave. So while a lot of people thought it would be perfect to shadow drop something for, New Vegas with the second season, it seems like, I'll just say, that's not the only time we're seeing the strip. So there might be another great time for a New Vegas remaster, at least if next season is anything to go by. And with the Enclave more involved, the timing actually may be a little bit better than we thought for a Fallout 3 remaster. So I'm a little optimistic about that. But when they talk about polish, it's like they didn't fix any legacy bugs. So the polish they're talking about is the additive work, which wasn't really fine-tuned afterwards. And if they're going to do what they did with Oblivion Remaster with Fallout 3, that's going to hurt my hype a little bit. So it's a little bit concerning in that regard. But what you have here is the potential for, I think, a Fallout 3 remastered reveal this year. Fallout Day is on October 23rd. That's a great place to reveal it. You have the Xbox Showcase, could be a great place to pull the trigger. But also, Oblivion Remaster keeps us on our toes. Why not shadow drop it? Why not? What they could do with that could be also a lot of fun. And I'd love for Fallout fans to enjoy a fun shadow drop or an ARG leading into a shadow drop. Because at least the countdown timer on Amazon's website taught us a little bit of that. People started to immediately look into it, which I said to Bethesda so many times. I'm like, guys, do ARGs. Fallout's like built for it. So yeah, ultimately that's what we got here for Xbox. A very jam-packed year. And that's not even accounting for like third-party partnerships, day one Game Pass games, which are always more alluring for Xbox fans. It's going to be a fun year. Like, outside of Halo, I think most of these games from Xbox are going to be really fun to talk about. I think Gears is going to be fun to talk about. I think, of course, Forza Horizon 6 is going to deliver hand over fist. And I think Fable, Fable, Gears, like those are going to be just two really fun games to go over. Halo is really the question mark for me. Anything beyond that is purely additive and delivers on an already pretty impressive year. You're talking Starfield updates. You're talking Kiln. There's a lot going on here. So Xbox is set to have a really crazy 2026. And I think they might even pull the trigger on like hardware reveals this year, just because I could see it like ending the summer showcase. And then the following summer showcase, like June 2027, do a developer direct dedicated to hardware and really solidify your commitment to that. I think that could be interesting. So that's what's going on with Xbox's release windows for 26. Very interesting report here from Tom Warren. Shout out to him, and just excited to see what Xbox puts out, man. They do a bad job on hardware, but their software, always an exciting, interesting time.